let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive today
Yeah.
into the world of finance. And specifically, whether or not Reddit stock,
Okay.
ticker symbol RDDT,
Right. Yeah.
is something you should consider
Interesting.
for your portfolio, whether or not it's a buy.
Yeah.
We've got a buy point analysis
Okay.
from November 20th, 2024, and a handful of recent news articles to help us unpack all this stuff.
Right.
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a really good, solid understanding of Reddit's financials, growth potential, and some expert opinions to help you make an informed decision.
Yeah, Reddit's a really interesting case study, I think. I mean, it's
True.
it's obviously a major force online,
Yeah.
but turning a huge user base into consistent profits,
Right.
it's a whole other
Totally different ball game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So for anyone out there who might not spend all day, browsing subreddits.
Right.
Can you just give us kind of a quick overview of what Reddit is and how it makes money? I mean, it's
more than just cat memes and funny arguments. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it is a massive network of online communities, those subreddits that you mentioned.
Yeah.
And they cover pretty much any interest you can imagine. Their revenue comes mainly from two sources, advertising and premium memberships.
Okay.
And they've actually gotten pretty sophisticated with their ad formats these days. They've got ads targeted within specific subreddits.
Oh, wow.
They have promoted posts that show up in user feeds.
Okay.
And even video ads now.
Oh, wow.
And premium memberships, which offer like ad-free browsing and other perks, are also a growing part of their revenue stream.
Interesting. So BuyPoint calls Reddit the dominant player in this whole community-based content sharing space. Let's start with some good news for potential investors. What's making analysts optimistic about RDDT?
Well, despite the current price being a little bit higher than their target of $91 a share, most analysts are giving RDDT a buy rating. So there's a general consensus that the company has strong future growth potential.
Got it.
Yeah.
And one of the news articles we have even mentions that Piper Sandler raised their price target to $150 a share.
Wow.
That's significantly higher than BuyPoint's analysis.
Yeah.
So some analysts are very bullish on it.
Yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
I think part of that optimism probably comes from Reddit's strong financials. They have a lot of cash on hand.
Okay.
Not very much debt. And they're generating positive free cash flow.
Okay.
Plus, with a current ratio of 11.96.
Wow.
Their liquidity, which is their ability to meet short-term obligations, looks really strong.
So financially sound, dominant market position, tons of growth potential. I mean, it almost sounds too good to be true.
It does, yeah.
And as we all know,
usually is. Yeah.
So what are the caveats here? What should give potential investors pause?
Yeah, so there are definitely some yellow flags to consider. So while Reddit has really impressive revenue, their operating margin is deeply, deeply negative.
Okay.
Sitting at a negative 54.39%. So this means that despite all that revenue, their operating costs are actually more than their earnings.
Okay.
And so that results in a net loss.
That's concerning. That suggests that they're spending a ton of money to drive growth. But is that sustainable in the long run? Can they turn that negative margin around?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? And it's directly tied to another point of caution, which is their valuation.
Okay.
So Reddit's forward PE ratio is a whopping 301.99.
Okay.
Now, remind me what that is again. Yeah, so that compares the current stock price to their projected future earnings.
Okay.
So a really high PE ratio like this one indicates that investors are expecting just like massive explosive growth down the line.
Got it.
Growth that may or may not materialize. Right. So essentially, at its current price, RDDT is what they call priced for perfection.
Exactly.
Investors are betting big on Reddit's future success. Yeah. Which makes you wonder how much of that optimism is tied to, well, potentially just irrational exuberance.
Right.
I mean, one of the articles even mentioned that Reddit was one of the biggest gainers during, quote, Donald Trump victory week.
Oh, interesting.
It makes you think about how much external factors like political events can influence stock prices.
Absolutely.
Often in very unpredictable ways.
Yeah, you've hit on a really, really important point there. I mean, those external factors, especially in this world of of tech and social media, which is so volatile,
Right, yeah.
can really make or break a company. And speaking of external pressures,
Yeah.
let's not forget about the competition.
Right, right.
You know, while Reddit is in a strong position,
Yeah,
they're not alone in this space.
right. X, formerly Twitter, is still a major player.
Threads, with its connection to Instagram, is another strong contender.
For sure.
And then you've got Bluesky,
Yeah, Bluesky is gaining some traction.
which is gaining traction. So the
Yes.
social media landscape is really crowded.
It is.
And all these platforms are fighting for user attention and engagement.
Absolutely. Reddit's got to keep innovating
Right.
and differentiating itself to stay ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
The question is, can they do that and also solve this profitability problem?
Right, right. Okay, so we've covered a lot here. What does all this mean for someone trying to decide whether to invest in RDDT? What are the key takeaways?
So the main takeaway I'd say is this. Reddit is definitely a high-growth company
Okay.
with a dominant position in a really rapidly changing market. They've got some really cool initiatives, especially in the AI space and strategic partnerships like the one with InMarket.
Right.
But they are facing a pretty big challenge in terms of actually being profitable, consistently profitable, and their current stock price is based on some very high expectations for future growth.
So before you make any investment decisions,
Yeah.
there's some really crucial questions to ask yourself.
Definitely.
First, what's your risk tolerance? Are you comfortable investing in a company with a high valuation and a negative operating margin?
Yeah, and just as important, how much weight do you put on analyst opinions
Right.
versus your own assessment of Reddit's long-term prospects?
Yeah.
Do you believe that they can overcome these profitability hurdles and maintain their market share with all this competition? Don't just take someone else's word for it.
Right.
Do your research, dig into the details,
Yeah.
form your own conclusions.
Couldn't agree more. I think our listeners are very well equipped
I think so.
now to start doing their own deep dive into Reddit. Thanks so much for sharing all your insights with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Always a fun conversation.
Yeah. And here's a final thought to leave you with. Reddit's a platform driven by user-generated content.
Yeah.
Right. Its success is really deeply intertwined with just the ever-changing landscape of internet culture
Really?
and online communities.
Right.
So how might future changes in these areas, like the rise of new platforms, evolving trends and content creation, just the unpredictable nature of online communities,
Right.
how might that affect the company's long-term
For sure.
trajectory?
Big questions.
It's definitely something to think about as you're making your investment decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's it for today's deep dive on Reddit.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.